Hello, my name is Paul May. I'm going to be covering ABT files and folders. First, if you have ABT loaded on your computer and you've activated ABT, you already have an activation key. If you're going to update your software, the first thing you're going to want to do is go to your programs. You can do that by going to the control panel, going to Program and Features, and uninstalling your existing ABT. In this case, we're running the deployment package 1.1.28. So we'll go ahead and uninstall that. Even though we're going to be reloading the same version, it will prompt us to do this anyway. So once we do that, it will completely uninstall ABT, and we no longer have a file in our start menu, and we don't have our shortcuts on our desktop. So what we're going to want to do is go to YouTube, type in Banta Systems, click on the Banta Systems next to the fan, click on the About tab, and click on the URL. Now we also have on the Banta link, we have the individual videos you can watch on YouTube, or you can click on the video playlist and watch all the videos at once. But please subscribe so you can get any updates. You'll get a heads up, and comment if you have any questions or feedback. So once you go to YouTube and you click on the URL and get over to Banta Systems website, you have a .NET framework. You can load it here, or you'll be prompted during your install to update your .NET framework. We also have the operating systems, a couple of pictures, and then we'll decide whether it's a 100 DPI or 120 DPI. If you've never changed the DPI on your computer, you're going to use the 100. If you've adjusted a DPI, then you know what I'm talking about. You're going to want to use the 120. Students have to click the Contact Me link so we can get feedback from your school, so we know you're a student and you're purchasing the product at student price. If you're a single user, you're going to want to download your version and then go and click on the Contact Me link and fill out the Contact Me link with your ABT serial number. It'll generate a serial number when you download and try to launch it. I need that number in order to send you an activation key. So now we'll go ahead and click on the fan. This is the one we choose to download, and you'll go ahead and just save it to your desktop. Once it downloads the software, go ahead and click OK, and then close out all the windows. Now that we have the ABT 100 DPI or 120 DPI zip drive and download it to your desktop, you're going to right click on the zip drive and extract all. Okay, so now we'll double click the folder. We've got a readme text which will take you back to the request key if you haven't requested for the activation key, information where the students need to go and where to purchase the software, and also our YouTube feed. We also have some emails here you can send for customer support or feedback. So we'll go ahead and click on the ABT Windows installer. We'll click Next, agree to the end license user agreement. After reading through the agreement, choose who you want to use it in the directory. Okay, after it installs, you can go ahead and close those pages out. You can either save the software, download, or delete it. So now it's made two shortcuts here. One's the application, and because we already had it loaded in the past, we have an activation key in our System32 directory. When you first download it, there'll be no key in here. You try to run it, and it just shuts down without an activation key. We also have a shortcut to the manual, and it's got 6 different sections, which we'll go through later. We also have a shortcut in the start menu to 2 more shortcuts, and the folder with all the resources and labs and training. So now once you've gotten the activation key and you've typed it into your text box, you can go ahead and run the application, and if this is the first time you've used it, go ahead and save it to XML. Now this intro form has changed, so we have site information and a lot of more information in this form that carries into all forms. As you can see, we have a default directory and we have what's called an actual directory. The actual directory is where this file is going to be either sending files to or pulling files from. In this case, we have a file in our Student Labs Shop Lab Test under the Process folder. So if we go to the ABT and we drill down into the Student Labs Shop Process Test Process folder, we have an intro form file in this intro form file. We have a site name and a job number or existing file name. So if we go and type in HVACR Training Center, file name 0002, we just read this XML file. Now if we typed in 0003, because it doesn't exist, it tells you that file doesn't exist. Now we also get a text file that we can create, and the text file is just a duplicate of what you see on your main form, and we do that by saving to text and saving to XML. Okay, so now the way the file structure goes is every time we click on another form, we auto-populate with the site name for this particular project. And this is because we might want to keep these projects together with the same name. We also have a actual file directory that this main form is going to, so it will auto-populate in a text box where you can direct this form to. But if you're working somewhere else, and in this case we don't have a traverse in that particular directory for this particular site that we set up, then we can actually take a look at that and see that we were going to the Student Lab Student A Traverse VP when we were working with this particular file. So Student Lab Student A Traverse VP. So this was the file that we were working with, which was 0001, job number, no test number. So we know that we have in this directory, we have a 0001 with no test number. So we'll go ahead and type that in, and we can read that particular file. We can also take a look at what that also, when we look at this text file, we can see that it's a pretty unique report in that we get our whole XY traverse within our report, our average X and Y traverse, our totals, and if this were a VAV test, K-factoring, calculated CFM, we can see that we have a file name and a test number. And that pretty much stays the same with all files, a file name and test number. So in this case, it was looking at student labs traverse feet per minute. There's only one in there, 001, no test number. We can look at that file. We have a duct design. In that case, we populate here with all the intro form. And again, the directory from the info form auto-populates here, so you don't have to retype it, you can just save it. But in this case, this file was actually used for the student lab duct design. So let's take a look at that. And we have several different files here where a lot of work was being done. And we'll just take a look at 004, no test number. The unique thing about this particular form is that we have added not only our actual length, but a multiplier for linear compression. We've also added a way to take the data from our calculated information. Say we wanted to take this main 1-1 duct length and recalc it in number 3. We could take number 3 and push this data back into our calculation side. And in number 3, we had a length of 4 feet. Multiplier 1, no linear compression. We'd hit our calc, hit this calc for the area. If we wanted to change this to a different duct diameter because of our friction loss per 100 feet, say we wanted to change that to a 10, we would see our change, and then we can add it to our section. We could also clear out that one particular section if we weren't going to use it. Just click read if you didn't want to make any changes. And like all tools, we have a clear all. Another added feature in this tool was the fittings. So it would give you all your fittings when you're doing your duct design. Then we have our library. In our library, we did add another text box for the feet and the pressure drop for the fittings that we were adding as an addition. We can take a look at the last time we were using this library forms. We were just in a student labs library, so go ahead and go there. We got 1 and 2, 001 file number, no test number, so we'll go ahead and go to 001 and 002. So this way we can differentiate between the types of fittings for our library and whether it were calculating based on pressure drop or additional feet for that particular fitting. Our friction rate form, same thing, auto population from the entry form, auto population for the directory from the entry form as well. In this case, we're using a friction rate. We have file numbers 1 and 2. And so this is the targeted friction rate per 100 feet based on the friction rate reference chart calculation. So we have the friction design totalization. In this case it was friction design total where we were using this. So this file here is where the directory is set. So the two files we have in here is file 1 and 2, no test number. Type in 0001. It tells us where it read that file, which is a direct match for the actual file directory. And our flow hood. Same thing here. It was, last time we used this was in the flow hood form, so we're going to go to that one. We'll go take a step back, go to the flow hood, and we only have one file, and that would be file number 0001 that we created here. And it read that file. And now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the air handler file. This is the load calculation file. Now from this file, this one's a little bit different. It doesn't use a file number and a test number to designate this file. This file, if we take a look at this, is the directory where we used this last was student labs, shop, lab, test, process, MUA2C. So let's go there. Student labs, process. This is the directory. If I copy that directory, copy, this is the directory where our actual file directory is. If I didn't have that down here, I would just delete what was there, paste it in there, and then add a flash to save that directory. And it creates this directory in a System32, and it automatically populates down here to tell me where it's going. If I said I wanted it just to go to the process and save, after I closed it, you can see it just went to the process. If I just wanted it to go to the C drive, it would only go to the C drive. Now, I don't have a file in the C drive, but I know I do have one in this process. It's called Air Handler Baseline MAU2C 1 test number preheat coil. So on this one particular file, it uses the form air handler, uses the file name, and in this case we're going to call it baseline, and it's okay if you put a capital instead of a lowercase. The unit is MUA2C. It is test number 1 that we're looking at, and chilled water process cooling. That doesn't exist in C. But let's go ahead and paste that again, the directory where we wanted it previously, and then we'll read. So we just pulled up this file. When you look at this file, it gives you all the main information, the unit information and conditions, site conditions, entering air conditions related to the psychometric chart, leaving air conditions, H2O added or removed to the process there. Chilled water or hot water GPM flowing across the coil if the checkbox was checked. Calculated tons, calculated BTUs per hour. Also with that form we have what's called the mixed air calculator. In this case we have one for the preheat where we did mixed air. And we can see what that form looks like. Unit information, preheat coil, site conditions, entering air, leaving air, and mixed air related to the psychrometric chart. Thanks for watching.